here in Canada, I've been at the forefront with another pastor of leading a campaign to reopen Ontario's churches, Ontario being the most populous province in Canada. And we were in a situation very much like the UK of indefinite lockdown. And of an indefinite lockdown of the church. We were being given numbers like 6 months, 12 months before worship could take place. And we allowed, most people, most Christians really allowed the notion that the state can say the church is non-essential. It was not listed as an essential service or essential business. And many Christians and leaders accepted that notion. And what we did is we stood against that. And we wrote against it, and we wrote a public letter to the Premier and to the Attorney General and the Deputy Premier, defining what the church really is, that it is established by the Lord Jesus Christ himself, that it was the first free institution in the history of the Western world, that it's the pillar and support of the truth, it's the embassy of Jesus Christ, and we talked about its historical role in Western society, in all that it serves and all that it does. And eventually we actually cited the Canadian law, the Canadian Charter, the Canadian Criminal Code, in order to argue that unless the churches were reopened, in terms of this recognition that there are various spheres of life in society, and they are all under the governance of Jesus Christ, and the state cannot just swallow all the others as though the church and the family and the vocations are just parts of the state. They're not. They're spheres of sovereign spheres under the Lord Jesus Christ. They interact, of course, but they can't all be swallowed in parts to whole fashion. And this was our argument. And in the end, we had a constitutional lawyer stand with us as we entered into this formal discussion with the government and their bureaucrats, the office of the chief medical officer. And we, by the grace of God, prevailed upon them. And as of this past Sunday, the churches were allowed to reopen at 30% capacity without any restrictions on singing and prayer and so on and so forth, just because the church, that there was leadership and we took a stand. And that's the thing we've been thanked for the most. We had, in the end, 450 churches in Ontario signed our letter. The first one, we wrote a second one. And as well, actually, the Orthodox Jewish community then joined us as well, because they were looking for freedom of worship. And we had to educate the bureaucrats on what freedom of religion, freedom of worship, the role of the church in Canadian history and Western history actually is.